Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes and I'm joined once again by Lawrence Conley and Kevin Tate to try and take something out of that performance. Bitterly disappointing. 2-0 Rangers. The third game, I would suggest that Gerrard has outthought Neil Lennon, even though we did win the League Cup. Lawrence, what was your thoughts overall?
I'm looking for a positive, probably Welsh. Done all right. You know, didn't let anyone down. Looks like a decent centre half. Really disappointed in Frimpong. Didn't really look to beat his man today, you know, and that's his game. The subs were too late. You know, we were talking about it, should we have made the subs at half time. I think he was bringing the right people on and the right people off, but, you know, 15, 20 minutes too late. Taylor came on and get 7 minutes. We obviously talk about Taylor quite a bit in this show. Great ball in the box. The forwards, they didn't get a lot of service today, did they? Cham was a bit of a passenger again, but we spotted that at half time. It's no creating enough. You know, definitely miss Christie.
100%. 100%. I mean, there was a comment in the second half there about us missing Edouard, and I basically said, well, you put Edouard in that team, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference because we didn't create anything. Now, you mentioned Christie there. Again, comes in for criticism. But what he consistently tries to do in a Celtic jersey is to create. And yes, he loses the ball. He tries ambitious passes and he takes risks. He loses a lot of the ball as a result of that. But he creates chances. We created virtually nothing today.
Well,
virtually nothing.
The three players at the most touches in the game are three centre-halves.
Three centre-halves.
Which... We need to take a chance now and again, don't we, Kev?
Suited Rangers for our centre-halves to have the ball because with all the best respect to them, there's only really Aya that's probably known as somebody that's going to play the pass or even possibly step out. Welsh have had a reasonably good game, but I think we've got to play to our strengths, and our strengths weren't really utilised. There was nobody really creating anything. Frimpong just refused to take on Borna Barisic.
What's your thinking there? What's your thinking, Kevin? You've got a guy there in Frimpong who, when he gets the ball and he instinctively goes on one of his mazy runs and he's past the man. How on earth did that not happen even once today? Is it because Barisic gave him the room and then Frimpong's faced him, but he's not even trying to take him on? I mean, why was he so spooked? He's been able to do it to any other left back domestically and in Europe this season.
I don't know if he's been told to hang back, and because you know there's a threat in the wings. He's been don't push up as much, but he certainly wasn't up for doing it.
He was potentially our most creative player going into this game. He was the guy I continually said, give the ball to Frimpong, give the ball to Laxalt. Frimpong was a passenger. I'm amazed that he actually finished the game.
Yes, I think he was definitely a player that probably should have been hooked, considering the amount of substitutions we did make. Frimpong just refused, and he's probably maybe short of confidence, to be fair, and I can't really understand. There wasn't a great deal on for him. Neat Cham was a bit of an empty jersey. Elyounoussi, again a bit of a passenger, had some moments, had a great opportunity in the first half. He should actually score, but Frimpong was he's only really had about 30 career games, so he's probably been let down by maybe a wee bit more experienced players.
We do expect a lot from him, Kevin. I mean, it's a good point, 30 career games, but we do expect a lot from Frimpong, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, see that early goal, we're watching the replay there, the early goal at half-time, I think everybody was in agreement. Duffy, a big experienced man, the most experience in that defence. You've got to deal with that better. Barca's got a bit of stick from the pundits who were commentating on the game, but I think that, Duffy was to blame him. But at that point, I'm not too concerned. I'm thinking we've got enough players that can craft at least an opening. You're looking at the statistics, 0 attempts on target. And I don't even know if you would class Griffiths' shot as a shot on goal in the second half. No shots on goal.
Griff should have went down. He should have went down. If he goes down, you'll maybe get something for the game. Surely McGregor's off. We've got a penalty. Could be 2-1 with 10 minutes or just under 10 to go. And I think were poor on. There was, I think, decision making across the team was poor because Mo could have went down the first half. and stayed up. You know, and it could have been another penalty. So I think we need to be making the players a bit wiser in their decision making. But Frimpong's game just, I think, completely changed. Charm didn't contribute anything.
I was hugely disappointed in Cham and El Yunusi. I made that point at half time. I think someone else said Klamala again was someone that you would maybe bring off. When were the substitutions made? They all came off, but it was late in the game where we were in a situation where we weren't going to get that moment where you bring on Logic and Griffiths and they make everything better. It's almost as if that's been a sticky plaster over the issues that we've seen again today. Now, that wasn't a particularly difficult game for Rangers today. You're looking at the three centre-backs at Celtic having more touches of the ball than anybody else, yet we created nothing, zero. You're looking over at that dugout for some inspiration, and often I'm struggling to see it. I'm struggling to see any kind of game plan. At half-time, I had to change. There's no point in changing like for like. The whole shape had to change. Rangers had us in their back pocket. We had to change the shape, and it didn't happen.
You're one down. You need to make something happen, don't you? You need to say, right, this isn't working. And whether it's a change of shape or personnel, it needs to happen earlier. It's at half time you need to make this decision. We've got 45 to pull it back. What was the first sub, 60 odd minutes?
Yes.
It's too late, isn't it? It's too late.
But from the half time, he's had them in the dressing room there at half time. To me, it was we called the subs, but the subs were too late. There was no fire in our bellies at half time. We were 1-0 down at half time. There was no tempo to the play. We were very, very, very passive all game.
One pace, Kev?
Yes, 100%.
When Rangers scored their second goal, you made the point that we kind of came out the traps for 5 or 10 minutes. That should have been happening at half time.
Well, I think one of the phases of the play, Griffiths, I think, went and took a very quick throw-in down the wing, but it needs a bit more of that to kind of get us going, and there wasn't enough of these players today. A lot of the players, to me, sort of hid and shied away and didn't want to play the difficult pass, didn't want to take the kind of men on, and I think we've kind of covered who they were, which was pretty much our kind of probably our attacking force, whether that's Frimpong, Elyounoussi and Nicham.
I would say those were the three players that definitely, if anyone let us down, it would be those three. I don't think they had. Frimpong didn't seem to fancy taking his man on. Cham was just too slow. He wasn't making runs he should have been making. Too slow moving the ball. Elyounoussi didn't get a lot of service. He had a chance he should have done better with, but I don't think he gave us enough. And I think after that, and I think the three of them might be, certainly Cham and Elyounoussi would be definitely struggling to start the next game. I think maybe Frimpong as well.
The player we missed more than any other. People mentioned maybe during the commentary, Edouard. We miss Christie more than anybody else. And the thing with Edouard is, I know he's not having a great season, but he's a game changer, right? And you know that. And I think Ayeti is as well, but he didn't look 100%, which is understandable. Griffiths will run all day long. McGregor ran all day long. My man of the match was young Welsh. He came in, this is my positive, Welsh came into that side. Last night we mentioned it on a Celtic State of Mind. Lucky or a good source, who knows, but we knew he was playing last night. He came on, I thought he had a very good game. He was caught a bit flat-footed at the goal, I think. You know, when Duffy went to ground, I think he was caught a wee bit flat-footed. Can't blame the young guy though. I thought he had an excellent game for his first game against Rangers. The other one, Laxalt, who's making his debut, I thought he played okay. And when he was taken off, I was quite surprised, to be honest, because he looked as though he could carve open some kind of opportunity, but we took him off. So they're my two positives. Kalmak as well, he did what he always does. You know, he always gives you 100%. But other than that, I really am struggling. I'm going to run through the team to try and identify where it all went wrong. But what it comes down to is the shape. Steven Gerrard, and I know people have a joke and a laugh saying that, you know, it's Beale that shapes the team, it's Beale that picks the team, etc. That team have more or less went toe-to-toe with us 3 games in a row, and the only game we've won was a League Cup final. And that was one under circumstances where we had a goalkeeper who had the game of his life, and it was the worst match I think I've ever watched in my Celtic supporting life. And we won 1-0 somehow. Watching these last 3 games, it's concerning that Gerrard and Beale have the beating of the Celtic side.
I think in the performances there that you're touching on, there's been too many of these where we've just failed to turn up against Rangers. I actually made a comment during the game. This is a Celtic Rangers game. Had we been playing Ross County today, we might have struggled to get 3 points against Ross County.
I'm now looking at Thursday night, Kevin, because the games, with the season such as it is, the games are coming thick and fast. Now, we could focus on the poor refereeing display as it was, but we were well beaten. So before I even go into that, we were well beaten before we come on to John beaten, right? So I'm not using it as an excuse. It was a shocking refereeing performance, particularly with regards to Morelos. That's not why we lost the game, though. We lost the game because Rangers were the better side. We haven't even had a shot on target. It's abysmal. I'm concerned with that.
I think, when you've got 2 or 3 players that just didn't turn up and somehow play the majority of the game, you could say it first half. Klimala was running about, but we know he's not at the standard, so I wouldn't blame Paddy, but Elyounoussi, Cham and Frimpong just completely changed his game today. Whether he's been told to hang back to try and make sure he's not leaving space behind him, I don't know. But whatever he was told or whatever he's doing today didn't work. And so, I think Elyounoussi and Cham are just empty jerseys.
Now that's interesting because you're looking at 2 guys who we looked upon last night as risks, Lawrence. You looked at Laxalt, for example. It's his first game. Do you throw him in? He's an unknown quantity. All of these things were discussed. You're looking at the young boy Welsh at the back. You're thinking that's a risk, playing his first start in a Glasgow derby. They 2 guys weren't my concern today. It's guys like Cham and Elyounoussi, boys that you think, well, you can rely on them. Elyounoussi, international player, who has turned a few games since he came to Celtic. His performance and Enchan's performances in Europe last season, and they were nowhere to be seen. They hid today. They were passengers today. Yep. And 100%. I think when you're looking at that, I'm trying not to overreact here because there's a lot of comments coming through via YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Social media will go into meltdown tonight. The usual, laying out hashtag will be seen. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon, but what I will say is that Celtic have got a massive squad. They've got a much better squad, but on a day like today, Rangers have proved that they aren't just challenging. They're now leading the title by 4 points, and albeit we've got a game in hand. We don't even know if this season is going to end. So today was pivotal. I don't care what anybody says leading up to this. In terms of it's just another game, there's loads of games to go. There may not be loads of games to go. We don't know how long this season's going to run, and we're now 4 points behind. Rangers in the driving seat. Now, we know what happened last season, but that was then, and this is now. So can Celtic look at that performance and make the changes? And if so, what changes do you make for Thursday night?
I think it's got to be Cham and Elyounoussi. I really think they're going to struggle. For me, if it was me, they would struggle to get back on my team. They need to do a lot. Would they come off the bench? I'd be looking at starting.
I think it's time.
Turnbull and a second forward.
You've just taken the words right out of my mouth. I think it's time to give Turnbull a run. I was just looking at some of the stats there, and Cham's played 13 times this season prior to today, and no goals and only 2 assists. And he plays quite advanced in the Celtic side. So there's no great return there. Whereas somebody that's been slated pretty much in social media game after game, Greg Taylor, 12 appearances, 1 goal and 4 assists prior to today. I mean, Taylor's stats are head and shoulders above Cham, and Cham's this player that we seem to be rating at 12 to 15 million.
He's much lauded, he certainly is. And when you're looking at him at half time, I think we called him a luxury player, Kevin. Now, Rangers were getting loads down the Celtic's left, and it was at that point you thought to yourself, you're going to have to plug that gap somehow. And the gap is Taylor. It's quite an obvious thing. Yes, you need to change your shape, but it wasn't working anyway. So why is that an issue? Taylor comes on with 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it doesn't make much sense when you can you can see it, and you could see it kind of early doors. We could see it in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the match, how the kind of shape was taken, and we were struggling. Dago was left far too much to do, too big a job to cover that kind of space. With Taylor, I'd have played him. I'd have played him left back, put Dago on in front of him, and there's your insurance policy. Because Rangers are strong.
Well, there's a change you could have made. Taylor on, with half an hour to go. I had to right back, Frimpong off.
Yep.
You're keeping Dago on. We've seen him do it at right back before. But Frimpong finishes the game, and for all game, I struggle to see what he gave us. The ball went to him, and he either lost it or it came back to the centre halves of Brown.
The big thing is, Lawrence, no overreaction here on Frimpong. I'm a massive fan. He's had an excellent season. He showed signs last season of what he could do also. But it was quite clear today that either he didn't fancy his chances against Barisic, or Barisic simply had the beating of him. Because, after about half an hour, you realise that he didn't want to run at him. And that's his natural instinctive play. That's what makes him so dangerous and exciting.
He's a young player. And it was obvious, as you say, after half an hour, today wasn't going to be his day. So I think
why the reluctance to make the changes though? You very rarely, I think once this season, and again someone might give me the stats, other than an injury, if you like, for Beaton, let's say against Sarajevo, when do we ever make changes at half time? Very rarely. I think once this season.
I think loyalty is one of kind of Lennon's failures, or one of his faults. He's too loyal at times to players, and he wants to give them the chance to go out and change it again. And sometimes it's going, well, you can change it. You make the change earlier. I think at times throughout it, and sometimes loyalty for him pays off. Look how loyal he's been to Griff. Griff comes off the bench last week, scores. But I think at times that loyalty doesn't work out.
I think today was crying out for that change at half time, just to try and get us up to even maybe into second gear. If that change is not made at half time when we were that passive in the first 45, Rangers are going to come out and they were happy. We never lifted any tempo up until Rangers got that 2-goal lead, and
then it didn't last that long, did it?
Well, half time,
5-10 minutes.
Half time, we were saying Klamala, not just because of the quality. I think we wanted either a Yate and Griff one. We were saying get Mo and Cham off the passengers.
Yep.
Passengers for 45, and they've got to be passengers for another 15-20 minutes.
Now, Lawrence, what I will do, there's loads of comments coming through, as it always is the case if Celtic have a bad performance, and that's fine. You've got to vent. You certainly do have to vent, and this is a platform for Celtic fans to share your thoughts and your views on that performance. I would also like to, before we finish off today, have a look through that starting 11, and let's have a look at what we're going to have to change for AC Milan, because of that Rangers side, and everybody's telling us that they're no great shakes. If that Rangers side can dismantle Celtic quite easily today, 2-0, that concerns me for Thursday night against AC Milan.
I think that'll be different. Rangers were quite happy to sit back and let us have the ball, because they knew that the creativity wasn't there. They must have seen Cham and Ellis who weren't creating anything. So you're 2 players down when you've got the ball. AC Milan aren't going to sit. We're not. It's going to be a different game. 3 centre halves.
It needs to be a different game,
once. Between them and Brown. So the 4 players with the most touches aren't going to be Brown and our 3 centre halves. So I think the game plan for when we've got the ball, we were lacking creativity. And for me, Frimpong's a young player. I wouldn't blame him so much. He didn't fancy it today for whatever reason, but I'd be looking at it in Cham and Mo saying, look, what was all about it today? He's offered very little. For players of that quality, should be offering a lot more. Try to make things happen.
What I'm always trying to do, Lawrence, is offer a balanced view. And after being beaten 2-0 from Rangers, I'm trying to be as balanced as possible. And I take the fact that we've had loads of players missing through the coronavirus. I take that. That's fine, okay? I also take the fact that wasn't a particularly good performance by the referee. In fact, it was shocking. Particularly the Morelos situation, where I think there's probably 8 situations where he could have got a booking. He comes off the park with a 1. So that aside, Celtic simply were not good enough today. The team selection, if it's not working after 10, 15 minutes, you can change the shape, Lawrence. You don't have to start pulling players off.
You can change the shape, but I don't know if it's shape. I think we're 2 jerseys down for 60, 65 minutes of the game.
That's identified at half time, make the change.
Yeah, and
correct.
Maybe your shape will work if you've got Turnbull and maybe a Yeti playing instead of Mo. I genuinely thought we're two jerseys down, but the ref, that's an improvement in his last performance, because I think Morelos had similar, putting players in the groin, elbowing players in the last game, and he managed to get through that without a yellow. So at least he's booked him this game.
The thing is, Lawrence, when I think back to the game you're mentioning, the last one that he refereed, as bad as the refereeing performance was back then, Celtic were horrific that day as well. And we deserve to get beat. Celtic deserve to get beat today. I'm not using the ref as an excuse. Absolutely not. But it would be remiss of me not to mention the performance.
Sean Beaton, when he had made Chandler more than he play any better.
No, absolutely not. You're right.
He wasn't making him play worse. You know, it's. I think those two players were just as bad as I've seen them in Celtic jerseys, both of them today.
No, you're right. Caplo Mark, via YouTube, you are stating that it's not acceptable. It's not an acceptable performance. Weak mentally throughout. Now, you know, when players' mentality is brought into question, it's one that my ears always prick up, because I think to myself, was it down to the mentality? What was wrong with the Celtic team today? What was wrong with the mentality? Because you're talking about players there. El Yunusi, a £16 million player. You know, you're talking about Encham. We got him for Man City. He ruled the roost against Lazio last season. We know what he can do. Why are these guys not turned up today?
I think a couple of them's not fancied it today. For whatever reason, they've just not fancied it. Your Frimpong's, your Elyounoussi, as you touched upon, they've just not turned up. And I don't think you can beat that Rangers team with 3 sort of empty jerseys.
No, you're right.
We were very passive. And we never even got going, and although we tried bringing on Griff, it was all too late, and Rogic, it was the horse had already bolted by then.
You're looking for Cham as the more forward midfielder to be your creative, and you're looking for things to flow through him and build the attacks the final third. You could say first half that wasn't happening.
It wasn't happening
in the second half. In fact, and you're only giving Turnbull 7 minutes.
I know.
You know, and listen, we could have done it after, come on, you know, Griff could have went down, we could have got a penalty, because you go, oh, it's 2-1, you know, just before they went on, but it'd been paper over the cracks, wouldn't it?
It certainly would be today. No doubt about it, Lawrence. Now, Joe Porter has joined us via YouTube as well. Where was Frimpong? And Barkas was poor. Ayer was our best player. He saved 2 certain goals. There's a lot of anger coming through from the Celtic fans, and quite rightly so. That was a poor performance, and we're entitled to air our views when we play badly. You know, I think after the Ferencváros game, we came out and we're very disappointed with that, and rightly so. And we're being poor again today.
Listen, Frimpong's a young player. He's going to have good and bad games, especially playing out more in the wing, isn't he? He's more forward playing the wing, so they tend to blow hot cold. But for whatever reason, he didn't try his normal game today, and I don't know if he'd been told to hand back because he didn't try and beat the guy.
It did seem almost like a deliberate. He was getting the ball, and then he just wasn't attacking.
He was looking
Barisic.
back, and he was finding Cham with the ball, which, geez, do you want to be? We didn't want to be doing that, did we? Today, anyway. So it's. Maybe that's an instruction, but Cham and Mo, I was really disappointed in them.
The only defence I could offer Frimpong was he didn't have many options. To me, as a Celtic player, picking the ball up where Frimpong usually picks it up, he should have 2 or 3 options.
Oh.
And he never had that today. His option was to take the man on, and he just pretty much refused it. So I'd start to look at some of the players that probably should have been shown for Frimpong, but I don't think he kind of should escape it just because he is a young player. It's just one of those things that he's got to go away, and he's got to sort of learn from that. He's got to probably step up to the plate and pretty much still play his own game, even though there's maybe not the same options.
Well, his 2 options should have been Cham and Elyounoussi.
Yes, or even a deep line midfielder for that one too.
You look at the games, like you look at the European games, and the boy that was consistently backing him up was Ryan Christie.
Yep.
Christie was behind him time and time and time again, giving him an out ball, and obviously that wasn't there for other reasons. But Kevin, you made a good point there. We rave about Frimpong, week after week after week. So if he's played bad, he's got to take that as well. You know, this is the nature of the game.
100%. With Frimpong, it's been a really bad day at the office. With Cham, we've seen this time and time and time again. 100%, I believe it's time to give David Turnbull a run in the team, just to see what he can do, because I don't think we're getting a return from Nate Cham for all these performances.
Do you know what's funny about it? That's the hardest position to get in the Celtic team because you get 3 midfield positions. McGregor and Brown start, but Cham seems to get that jersey so often.
I think after today, though, Lawrence, Kevin's made a point.
You've got
it's opened it up now.
But Kev was saying, even before today, the stats Kev came out with.
Yeah.
It's not like
he's not creating enough.
It is time and time again. We've known, and that's probably the hardest jersey to get. Fair enough, Christie's not in, but there was Turnbull or even Rogic should be starting against ahead of Cham.
I think the two big ones for me, and it's not even Frimpong, because I just think, like you say, bad day at the office, Kevin, and we move on to the next game with Frimpong. You're looking at Cham, I think he's lost his jersey. He's not getting picked in the first 11 against AC Milan. Yep. And I think the other one is, we've been playing with El Yunusi, right? So we didn't know what his best position was, and we've actually, we've played him out left, we've played him in the centre. It's now time to play with 2 strikers. We've got Ayeti coming back to fitness, Griffiths, and obviously Klimala ran his heart out today, but it didn't happen for him, right? So I think it's time now to go to 2 strikers. Hopefully Edouard will be fit for Thursday night, and you play maybe Ayeti or Griffiths, whoever's the fittest alongside him. Play with 2 strikers, because playing this man, I think it's a luxury now. You play with El Yunusi off him, you've got Encham behind him. It's a luxury to have that. We need to fully utilise the striking options that we've got now.
Definitely. The thing is, Klimala, if we'd had 2 strikers today, Klimala's a young striker. He'd have benefited by the experience of going for Ayeti for the time he was on the park, wouldn't he?
Well, you're looking at Griffiths, and sometimes you forget he's 30. He's been in the game a long time, and the likes of Klimala would learn from him 100%, Lawrence.
Or even the corners and the free kicks that we got. Outside of Griff putting them in, who's decent for us? Maybe Turnbull, he was good at Murrow. So maybe if he gets a run,
Callum Mack, Callum.
I don't think they get a great return. I know Callum takes him, but I don't think we get a great return.
A wee response from Curry Muncher on YouTube. Bad day at the office. They were the office cleaners today. That's harsh on office cleaners.
Aye, office cleaners will probably put in a shift, and I think that's really what happened today. Celtic never turned up, and we've put a big focus on El Yunusi, Nietzsche and Frimpong, but there was 2 or 3 other things that just didn't work the day. It was really like Griffiths is chasing the way back at the corner flag in the last 5-10 minutes to try and get the team going, where to me that's Duffy's job, that's Brown's job, and Griffiths should be higher up the park. These kind of things have a big impact.
I think that some players did run their heart out though, but unless you've got the full team fighting,
yes,
that's the problem.
Correct.
See, this is the thing. What we do get, Lawrence, is a lot of comments. If you make a comment like, "Oh, you ran his heart out," well, that's a prerequisite. That's a given. You should be doing that anyway. Yeah, but they didn't all. They didn't all today. That's why you're making the point. He worked hard. It didn't work for him today.
Klimala ran his heart out. No problem with his effort, but there's players on there you could definitely fault their effort and application today, which you've got to wonder why, especially Chama. I thought, you've got to know you've lost the jersey. After today's performance, he must be sitting in there going, what did that contribute?
He's lost the jersey for me. I mean, I predicted my 11 and then Cham was in it. He's lost the jersey for me. El Yunusi was in my starting 11 as well, Lawrence. He's out the team. I want to play with 2 strikers now. Edouard hopefully will be back from his illness and able to play on Thursday night. Who do you play alongside him? Ayeti actually would be my first choice, Kevin. With Griffiths still coming back into the team for me, Ayeti's shown enough this season that there's a partnership there. I think that if you play El Yunusi off the strikers, it looks like a luxury to me, and one that we can't afford against teams like Rangers.
Listen, it's a different game. I imagine we're going to be pinned further back, so maybe he does work when we're pinned further back and we're breaking. But he certainly wasn't the player that's going to break a defence down on today's show, is he? When we've got time to build, well, we didn't build anything today. But he wasn't shown for the ball in the right positions. He wasn't getting turned and facing up often enough. I mean, he rode a couple of challenges once in the game.
He was never really, to me, he was never really in the game. I don't think Celtic were in the game. I don't think any team can win a game of football ever being that passive. We were never aggressive enough. We were never pressing enough. We were pressing in 1s and 2s, and it was all kind of sort of half-hearted. Well, there was never really anybody really sort of saying like, let's go and go as a pack of 7. I was never
press never
seen
works
that.
because you get 2 or 3 press at a time. But the formation you play, it's Cham and Elanusi's job to spark the attacks, to give the ball to come out. And both of them never turned up. You know, it'd been hard enough with one of your guys that you're looking to spark something not turning up. But both of them know to turn up. And again, we knew that first half. The change should have been made earlier, whether it was shape or personnel. For me, it was personnel. You know, it wasn't the shape that made them not turn up.
Now, what we've got here, Lawrence, is a situation where everybody in this room knows that we were well beaten today by Rangers. We're 4 points behind. We've gone through a game with no shots on target. Some of the experienced players have not turned up, and we're moving on to a massive game on Thursday night. As often happens after a bad result, we're busier than a good result, so we're actually running with 1,000 live viewers as we speak on the show at the moment, and we could probably sit here all night and debate and question the team selection and the shape. But obviously what we're going to do is we're going to bring this one to a close. This is a post-match reaction. This has been a Celtic state of mind, and the amount of people that have come on the show, even just to vent, has been refreshing for us, because obviously the show is growing, and you've got to vent, Kevin. You've got to look at the bad performances and question why, because we, in this season of all seasons, like your jersey says, we're going for 10 in a row, and every single defeat and draw is, for me, it could be quite critical in that pursuit. So we're looking at that just now. We're going to obviously dust ourselves down. We'll be back on Monday at 12:30 for the Celtic State of Mind Bulletin. I've got to thank everybody for getting involved, and I also need to thank Lawrence Connolly and Kevin Tate. Nobody won your prizes, Kevin, because nobody actually predicted 2-0 to Rangers, so we'll carry them on to Thursday night if you don't mind. So join us again on Monday for a Celtic State of Mind.